Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And boy, do I have an amazing guest for you today. Now, his name is Mort Orman, and he is the anger elimination expert. And you're thinking, wait, what? Is that a thing? It's absolutely a thing. And guess what? He's actually created a whole process around it where it stops you from getting angry, right? And getting out of the emotion, which means that you can be a lot more productive and move forward a lot quicker than being stuck in that state. And we're going to be speaking about that so much more in this episode. So please welcome on stage, Mort Orman. Oh my goodness, I'm super excited to have you here today, Mort.
Hey. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I've got so many questions around this topic for you today.
Okay.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, right, I would love for you to share with the audience today a little bit about your background, your journey, and how you actually came about this awesome process of eliminating anger and where you was at in life, right, when you were on this journey. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I got into it because in my teenage years, in my 20s and early 30s, I had a lot of anger in my life. I was going through medical school and internship and residency, and then my first few years in practice. And I had a lot of problems, anxiety, anger, relationship failures, and things like that I was really struggling with. I was successful professionally, but I didn't feel like I was a success in life because I couldn't control my emotions, and particularly anger was something that really got the better of me. I don't know if you ever got to see John McEnroe play tennis, but he was a hothead on the tennis court, and he would just yell and scream at himself and the umpires and smash his racket and all that stuff.
But that's normal if you're playing in a competition, right?
Well, yeah, and he used it to motivate himself. But that's how I was on the tennis. I took up tennis around my late 20s, and I had a hard time controlling my anger if I miss a shot or something like that. Anyhow, but I would end up getting angry at my patients in the early years of my practice. Of course, all my relationships with women failed, mostly
it didn't.
Because of the anger. So I had all these problems, and then to make it worse, I'm taking care of patients in my practice. So you can easily see the angry people from the not angry people, and you see what happens to them over time. As doctors, we get that perspective that most people don't get. You see what happens to people, and you see they have more heart attacks and strokes, and they get addicted to alcohol and other drugs more easily, and they get divorced more often. And you see all these horrible things that happen from people who have a lot of anger, and you're sitting there with your own anger, and you're going like, hey, I better do something about this before, I'm going to end up like my patients or some of my patients. So that got me motivated to do personal development, which I did for a couple of years. And that eventually led me to cobble together a bunch of stuff from different programs that I participated in. And I put together a system that surprised the heck out of me as to how good that it worked.
It surprised you?
Yeah, because I didn't think, in that time when you're angry, when you've been angry for years and years and years and nothing helps, you get to the point where you go like, well, I guess I'm always going to be this way. I guess that's just part of my personality, just who I am, or anger is just a normal part of life for me, and it's never going to get any better. So I had all these ideas that it was just going to always be the same. And then, so when I found something that actually allowed me to get my hands on the controls and make the anger go away, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I wouldn't have predicted that I've been able to do this. Okay. So it was a shocker.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it was the journey that you went through yourself and being angry yourself, where you were like, okay, I don't want to end up like all these other people that are angry. I need to change it. And that's when you kind of started looking at ways that you can make a change. Is that right?
Yeah. And all the traditional stuff, the anger management stuff, the stress management stuff, that stuff wasn't really helping. I'd wake up every day. I'd be the same angry person, so it wasn't stopping me from getting angry. It helped a little bit sometimes in managing the anger, and managing the symptoms, but it wasn't helping stop me from getting angry. So that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that kind of a cure rather than just, manage the anger for the rest of my life, which was kind of a pain to have to do all that work to do that.
Okay, so just to make it clear to the audience, this isn't anger management. It really is eliminating anger is what you do. That's the difference, right?
Yes. And the only way you eliminate a problem like anger is you have to get down to the root causes, which anger management mostly doesn't do. It mainly deals with the symptoms. So, okay, so now you're angry. What do you do with that anger? How do you express it well, or how do you dissipate it? You can do relaxation. You can punch a punching bag. You can run 5 miles. You can do all kinds of things to lower the tension in your body. But the question is, how do you turn off the anger on the front end? How do you keep it from happening so often and so intensely?
But wait, isn't having anger emotions good for you?
Well, in certain circumstances, it can be. So sometimes anger can be motivating. Like for John McEnroe, it was motivating on the tennis court.
Right.
It got him to play, his best tennis. Sometimes people can be in a bad relationship or a bad situation, and they're kind of putting up with it until the point where they get really angry, and then they do something about it, or they stand up for themselves. So that can be anger, in a good way. But most of the anger that we have, I call unwanted anger.
Okay.
Where it's harmful. It damages our relationships. It damages our health. It damages our families, our kids. It can ruin your career or cause you to lose your job or have something bad happen. Or you can you can get into a fight or have legal expenses, damage somebody's property or hit somebody, So there's all kinds of negative things that come. And that's the kind of anger that I want to help people get rid of, which there's far too much of in the world today. All this unnecessary, unwanted anger and division and hostility and violence and all that stuff. So this is like the solution to that if people would really understand anger better.
Absolutely. And you know what? When you tell me, that you was an angry young person, I don't believe it. You're like the most calm and collected person, right? I do not see that the person in front of me right now can ever get angry. I'm like, no, it's not possible, right?
Well, it's funny. I was at a speaking conference last year, and I was on stage, and there was a coach coaching me for public speaking, and I was talking about anger, and he said, you don't look very angry. I says, why don't you show us a little anger? Show us what it was like back when in your angry days when you were really angry. And I couldn't do it. It's been gone for the last 40 years. I've had such little anger the last 40 years. I actually couldn't get back to the place where I was getting angry all the time and yelling and screaming all the time. It's just not in me anymore. I just completely got rid of all that anger. It didn't happen overnight, but it's been like 40 years of knowing and using this process of understanding where the anger comes from and then getting rid of it. And it's rewired my brain. It's changed my body, my outlook on life, everything. And I don't hardly get angry at all. And if I do, I know where it's coming from. I can step in, intercede, and make it go away real quick,
Wow. Yeah. So, okay. So people that have known you for years and years, right? Yeah. What do your family, your friends, your wife, what do they say about this change, right? They're like, no, you're a whole different person, or how does this work out? What are their thoughts around it?
Well, remember, the change happened 40 years ago.
Right.
So most of the people in my life now have never known me to be that angry person,
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess we go back with old friends. They kind of realize, well, I guess, over time things change. So I guess people change over time. But so it wasn't all that alarming to anybody. But to me, it was like monumental. It was monumental. How you feel inside. When you don't go to bed angry at night and lose sleep because something happened during the day and you're still thinking about it and carrying it around, or you're not holding grudges for months and years and stuff like that. I mean, that just feels so great to be free of all that stuff that I used to have, that was a problem, And then having your relationships go better. I mean, my wife and I are about to celebrate our 40th anniversary in June.
Oh, congratulations.
So, it's really paid off. in terms of being able to finally have a successful family life and a successful relationship where I'm not causing it to disintegrate by, getting angry all the time. Yeah.
And so there's something else that you mentioned, right? Like you can eliminate anger, right? Which is find out what the root cause is. But it doesn't mean that you're never going to experience anger again.
Correct.
Right? So you experience it, but then you have a better understanding on how to move away from that very quickly. Is that right?
Yes, because we all get triggered. I mean, anger, you get triggered. Something happens, and you're not trying to be angry. You're not saying, well, I think I'll be angry right now because somebody did something or that. It just happens automatically. It's like a knee jerk kind of, when you go to the doctor's office, we tap on your kneecap and your knee. It's an automatic, response. Something happens, you see it in a certain way, and then that triggers anger. Okay. But we don't realize that there's internal causes involved as well. We only see the external cause and we feel the anger, and we think that's the whole story. And that's what I thought back in my 20s and 30s when I couldn't get rid of my anger. But once I realized, hey, there's two more causes. There's two more causes going on inside me that I didn't know anything about. Mm-hmm. And when I filled in those puzzle pieces, I was like, oh, now I have the whole picture. Now I know where my anger is coming from, in a way that I didn't know before. Now I see what I can do. Now I can step in, and I can take care of these internal causes now that I know what they are. But until I knew what they were, I couldn't do anything about them. And that's where most people are. That's where most people are today. And that's what I basically teach people in my coaching program and in the book that I just released. I show people how to identify those internal causes of anger that we don't get taught. We go through all of our schooling. I went through all my schooling, medical school, 7 years of medical training, 4 years of college before that. Didn't teach me any of this stuff. Okay. Right. About where do your emotions come from? Where does anger come from? I had to learn it on my own, and then finally figured it out on my own. And then once I did, I realized, as a physician, this is really important to get out into the world, So I've been writing about it, talking about it, teaching about it, because it's important to people's health and their well-being to have as little unnecessary anger as possible. If the anger is good, then that's fine. But most of it, I'd say 90% of it is unwanted.
Okay, so when you actually work with your clients, I'm interested, what are some of the common kind of pitfalls do a lot of your clients go down, right, that you can identify very, very quickly is where the anger is coming from? What are some of the common things that when your clients come to you say that they need help with anger because of whatever reason?
Well, it's funny. When I give talks and I have slides to show and everything. One of the first slides I'll show is a commercial of Monica Barbaro, who's a female actress that played in Top Gun Maverick. She was a female pilot in Top Gun Maverick.
I think you showed me this.
Yeah, attractive lady. Yeah. And she did a PSA commercial several years ago for a mental health topic. And she's sitting on a couch talking to her boyfriend, and she has this nail sticking in her forehead, and she's complaining about headaches. And she's complaining to her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's trying to be very sympathetic. He's listening. And she's complaining. She says, I have these headaches, and I know I'm under a lot of tension. And he kind of looks at her a little like funny. He said, you might want to think about removing that nail from her. And she says, you always want to go to solutions. You always want to say, I just want you to listen to me. So she's like, she doesn't realize she has this nail sitting in her forehead. Right. And so when patients come to me and they say they want help with their anger, that's what I see. I see them coming in and they have this nail in their forehead and they don't know that it's there. They don't know what's causing their problem. So the cause of their problem is something it's invisible to them. And if I can just show them those internal causes, which they're lacking, which is like the equivalent of the nail in that, you can pull the nail out, you relieve the headache. If you see the internal causes, you can deal with those internal causes, relieve the pain. So everybody that walks in to me looks like they have a nail in their forehead.
Oh my goodness. So we all look like we're walking around with nails in our heads.
Yes. Because they always come in, they think they know why they're angry. Well, because it's their boss, it's their spouse, it's their kids, it's their job, it's the Republicans, the Democrats, it's the weather, it's climate change, whatever it is, okay? It's something usually outside of them that they've identified, which is real. I'm not saying that those things aren't real. It's just they're missing the other pieces of the puzzle, which are invisible and going on inside of us. So and that's what I help people see.
Right. So it's not so much as all the external things that we think are making us mad, is what is the internal conflict that we have in us.
Yeah, because the external things actually aren't what's driving the anger. There's triggers, but you can have two friends standing side by side. They witness the exact same event. One of them might get angry, the other one won't.
That's true.
It's the internal filters, how we look at that and perceive it, think about it, that really triggers the emotional reaction inside our body. It's never the external event by itself. And we have a big misunderstanding about that in life. We're kind of taught to believe we're made to feel angry directly by what other people do, events that happen in life. And that's really only it starts the process. The anger actually comes from the way we perceive things through three very specific filters. And you need three very specific filters to get the emotion of anger. And that's what I didn't know in my 20s and 30s.
Okay. So that's interesting. So you help, the way I'm interpreting what you're saying to me is you basically help your clients become more aware of themselves and what's going on.
And how their anger is getting generated inside their brains and their bodies. That's invisible. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't sense it. But that's where the anger is at. That's what's causing the chemicals and the hormones and whatever the physiology is that produces the feelings of anger. It's coming from the way you're looking at things and what you believe to be true about those things.
Okay.
And that happens inside us.
Right. And you mentioned there's three things.
Yes.
What are those three things?
So there's three. The first thing to realize is we never see reality exactly the way it is.
Right. We've all got different perspectives.
Everything is filtered.
Yes.
Through our based on our whole life history and how our filters get formed in our families and social groups we hang out in and the countries we're born in and all that kind of stuff. So we get these different filters. But there's around anger, there's three kind of uniform filters. So the first one is you have to be seeing somebody doing something bad and wrong they shouldn't have done.
Okay.
So we usually don't get angry if we think somebody's doing something that's right, that's terrific, that's wonderful. It doesn't cause anger. Okay. Usually it's something that's bad and wrong. Then you have to see some negative impact, some hurt or some harm, some inconvenience, something that's negatively impacting either you or somebody else. Okay. And then the third filter is you usually see those two things and you have a filter of unilateral blame. So that person who did the bad and wrong thing that caused the hurt and harm was primarily or unilaterally responsible. It's a very narrow blame filter. You don't really see any other causes when you're angry. And when you have those three filters going that get activated within you, and you see the world that way, and you believe those things are true, then the emotion of anger follows.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, if there's a terrorist attack and somebody explodes a bomb and kills people, innocent people, and the reaction is anger in the population, why did people get angry? Well, the terrorists did something bad and wrong they shouldn't have done. Mm-hmm. They hurt and harmed people. And who was responsible for deciding to detonate the bomb? The terrorists. Right. And when you see the world through those three filters, you get angry. That's how it works. Same thing if you're in a relationship with somebody and a spouse or a kid, and you're seeing them doing something that looks bad and wrong to you, and it looks like either you or them or somebody else is being negatively impacted, and they're mainly to blame, then you tend to get irritated or annoyed or angry, or you can all go all the way up to rage, but it's all coming from those same three filters, depending upon how intensely you get angry, but it's all coming from the same three ways of looking at things. And what's interesting is it turns out that a lot of times there's flaws in those three filters. We're not seeing the whole truth of what happened. We're only seeing a part of it, thinking that we've got the whole picture. And there's often stuff missing.
Oh, interesting.
That we're blind to. Yes. That's where it gets really interesting.
I see. And so it seems like you go really deep with this when it comes to working with your clients, right? And I guess it's probably a necessity as well because of the rooted stuff that's going on, that's been hanging on to them for many, many years.
Yeah, yeah.
So how long does it take to go through this process when a client comes to you right from the beginning to help them out from beginning to end? Like, how long does it take?
Well, that's really amazing because I've been doing this for 40 years. I used to do it. It took me a lot longer in the older days, but I've gotten it down now where I can actually take somebody who's been very angry for a long time, and nothing's helped. Right? They start working with me, and after 10 1-hour sessions, I can completely turn them around to where they're having very little anger. They know exactly where their anger is coming from. They know exactly how to get rid of it whenever it starts to, come up inside them. And it only takes 10 sessions. And it's amazing how fast that happens. I've had people who've been angry all their life. One guy was in his 60s, angry all his life. Mother was angry. Siblings were angry. As a twin was angry.
Wow.
And nothing helped. At the end of 10 sessions, he was like a new man. He wasn't even getting angry on the golf course anymore, where every time he made a bad shot, he would get angry. And his wife was like, couldn't believe how,
Wow.
how much better he was and easier to be around, he was. And people think it takes years and years to make any major change like that. But if all it is that you're missing a couple key puzzle pieces and no one's ever told you what they are, and somebody comes along and says, "Oh, here's what you're missing. This completes the puzzle," then you go like, "Oh, well, now I see what's going on. Now I understand. Now I know, what I can do that I didn't know before." It's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult,
No. This sounds all really amazing to me. I was like, this is going to be it's like unbelievable. And it's almost like you are the pill that people need and you can fix everything.
Yes, without the pill.
Right, exactly, without the pill. Now, you mentioned that you've written a book.
Yes.
Right? I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit more about, what this book is about, what it will do, what they can learn, the benefits, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Orman's Life-Changing Anger Cure, which is exactly what it is. And what I did was I realized, as I'm retired now, I only have so many hours to do one-on-one coaching with people, only so many people I can help.
Okay.
And the problem of anger is so big in the world today, as we can see by turning on our television sets or scrolling social media. I mean, anger is just so out of control that, I felt I have to get this out in a bigger way to more people. So I took everything I've learned over the last 40 years, everything I teach in my program, I put nothing held back. I put everything in the book we'll go into much more depth about these three filters and how they came about and, what you can do when you understand all this put everything in the book. The only thing I couldn't put in the book was working with someone one-on-one, where you say, well, I got angry yesterday when my spouse did this or my kid did that, and I could work with you and take the principles and say, okay, here's how we'd apply it to that situation. So I can't do it, individualized like that, but I give a lot of examples in the book of how that would work. So it's almost everything that I teach in my coaching program that you can get now in, from a fraction of the cost, for less, for under $20, and you can get the whole program, you can get the whole methodology as a blueprint that you can use for the rest of your life. It's like amazing. And I share everything I've accumulated in the last 40 years. My goal is to just get it out in the world and get as many people, educated. I'd love to see it eventually in school systems,
Nice.
in colleges and psychology programs, because I think you shouldn't graduate college without understanding where your emotions come from in a very basic way. You shouldn't be able to graduate college without knowing how you're likely to destroy your relationships, what some of those common patterns are, and not being able to understand your emotions is a big part of that. So these are all basic life mastery skills that I think we're doing such a poor job of educating people, young people on. And so again, I see that as part of what my mission is, in my retirement years, is to make a big dent in this whole anger problem in the world. And help as many people as possible to realize that they have a lot of power and control over their anger that they don't know they have.
That's true. Oh my goodness, this is awesome. Now, I know people are probably thinking, oh my goodness, I want to learn more about this, right? I want to learn more about what Mort is about. I want to buy the book. Like, where can they go to connect with you, buy the book, and just learn more about this process?
Well, the book will be on Amazon and other bookstores probably, or book outlets. But I have a website, which is docorman.com, DOCORMAN.com. And that's how people can stay in touch with me. And I have an email list that they can get on and stay in touch with me that way. And,
all right, perfect. Yeah. All right, guys. So all the links that Mort has mentioned will be in the show notes. So make sure you do scroll down, go and check it out, go and buy his book, go and learn this entire process, because it can absolutely change your world, right, in so many different ways. Reach out to Mort as well, right, because he is an awesome guy to be around, right? Just an awesome, like, you can see him right now, right? So calm, so collected, like, I don't know how he's doing this, right? I need to go and read the book myself. But yeah, make sure you get on his contact list as well, because you want to make sure you can learn and absorb as much as possible, because this will help in business, your personal life, with relationships, with all sorts of different areas, and you just got to learn the process, right? So, Mort, before we go, do you have any last words for our audience?
Yeah, just don't fall into the trap of the common myth, once an angry person, always an angry person. It's not true. It doesn't matter how long you've been angry, you've been missing some key puzzle pieces. And if you fill in those gaps, you'd be amazed at how good you can be at getting rid of anger and doing it very quickly and very easily. So just don't write yourself off as not, having the possibility of being able to live an anger-free life, because you really can.
There you go. Oh my goodness. Mort, so many great tips in such a short amount of time. I absolutely love it. Thank you for coming onto the show and sharing all of your wisdom.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.